As the U.S. navigates a world filled with geopolitical flashpoints in 2025, the specter of conflict looms. Yemen's spiraling violence, tensions with China over Taiwan, and Russia's persistent threat in Ukraine send ripples of uncertainty. Iranian influence and extremist actions in Africa further complicate matters. Each scenario harbors the risk of escalation, raising questions about America's military commitments in the face of evolving global dynamics. With the U.S. having withdrawn from Afghanistan and largely shifted away from large-scale counterinsurgency operations, the military has been in a period of relative peace. However, history suggests that the U.S. rarely stays out of conflict for long. Now in 2025, several geopolitical flashpoints could push America toward another war within the next 5 years. One of the most immediate concerns is the situation in Yemen. Houthi rebels backed by Iran have increasingly targeted international shipping in the Red Sea, prompting U.S. military retaliation. While the U.S. has thus far relied on air and naval strikes, there is always the possibility of escalation, especially if Houthi attacks continue or Iran becomes more directly involved. Could this lead to an eventual ground deployment? Beyond Yemen, tensions with China remain a key concern, particularly regarding Taiwan. While a full-scale Chinese invasion seems unlikely in the immediate future, ongoing military provocations and economic warfare could lead to a crisis that forces the U.S. into action. Would this result in a direct military confrontation, or would the U.S. rely on deterrence and proxy strategies? In Europe, Russia's war in Ukraine continues, with speculation about Moscow's willingness to expand its aggression beyond Ukraine's borders. If NATO allies like the Baltic states or Poland are threatened, would the U.S. be compelled to send troops into combat under Article 5 of the NATO treaty? Iran is another major factor. Beyond its involvement in Yemen, Iranian-backed militias across the Middle East, particularly in Iraq and Syria, have increased attacks on U.S. bases. Could a major provocation, such as a deadly attack on U.S. forces, lead to a direct American intervention? Additionally, there are growing threats in Africa, where extremist groups are expanding in regions like the Sahel. If instability spreads and threatens U.S. interests or allies, would that be another potential theater for American ground forces? Given these circumstances in 2025, what are the realistic chances of the U.S. deploying ground troops into a new war within the next 5 years? Which of these conflicts, Yemen, Taiwan, Ukraine, Iran, or Africa, is the most likely to escalate into a large-scale U.S. military engagement? Or will the U.S. continue to avoid direct combat while relying on air power, naval forces, and proxy support?